So do you guys remember all of the conspiracy theories that were floating around about the 2020 election? How the right really leaned into the idea that the voting machines, Smartmatic, Dominion, that these companies were basically rigging it, and the conspiracies got insane. I mean, you heard stuff about Venezuela and Hugo Chavez are linking up with the Democrats to steal the election for Joe Biden, which is absurd on so many levels. I mean, Hugo Chavez is dead. And he was dead at the time. And they took, apparently this voting machine company did some work in Venezuela, and they took that as, evidence or proof that they're working today with the Democrats to steal. It was insane. The stuff was insane, and it was all over the place on the internet on the far right. And then it made its way to Newsmax and One America News. And then eventually some of the stuff got onto Fox News. Now, that's a problem. So, Newsmax and One America News, one of them, or maybe even both of them, got sued. And they came out, they were, oh my god, it was so sad, it was so embarrassing. They had their sheet, and they were like, so the comments that were made do not reflect the thoughts and views and opinions of the network, and there's zero evidence for some of the claims that were made on the show. And it was one of those mea culpa things. Same thing that Alex Jones had to do with the Sandy Hook families at one point, where he had to read, what was it, Pizzagate or something? He had to read something and, sort of apologize and say, I'm totally full of shit and stuff, bro. So it's a similar thing going on here. Well, there's a lawsuit still going on against Fox, and it's for $1.6 billion. It's the Dominion lawsuit. So here's what they say in Raw Story. According to a report from The Guardian, the future of Fox News hangs in the balance, with media mogul Rupert Murdoch expected to be deposed on Tuesday as part of a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit filed by Dominion Voting Systems. The report from The Guardian's Chris McReal notes that lawyers for Dominion have worked their way up the corporate tree to Murdoch, who will be put on the spot for allowing on-air personalities to spread election conspiracy rumors on the air about the 2020 presidential election. According to the report, the suit shines a spotlight on Fox News' part in promoting Trump's Stop the Steal campaign and its hand in driving the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. But legal experts say that Dominion, which supplied voting machines to 28 states, appears to be building a wider case that Fox News has a long history of misinformation and steamrolling facts that do not fit its editorial line. Noting that Murdoch's son, Lachlan, has already been put on the spot, the report adds that the elder Murdoch's testimony could be pivotal to the future of the network. Quote, months of accumulated testimony are expected to put Murdoch, the chair of Fox Corp, in the difficult position of either having to deny he has control over what happens at his most influential U.S. news operation, or defend its campaign to promote the biggest lie in U.S. electoral history, McGreal wrote. The report states that lawyers for Dominion obtained rafts of internal messages that are, quote, evidence that Fox News knew the lies it was broadcasting about Dominion were false and part of a culture of politically loaded reporting and broadcasts far from the network's claim to be fair and balanced, according to one Dominion attorney. It's an orchestrated effort. It's not just on the part of each host individually, but it's across Fox News as a company. Okay, so look. This is one of those situations where, in the United States, our free speech law is very strong. So, in order to prove libel or slander or defamation, the bar is super high. You need to prove damages, and it needs to be, you need to prove material damages, and if you're talking about public figures, then it's an even higher bar. Basically, you're allowed to lie about public figures in this country. And so we are very, very pro-free speech in terms of our case law. And look, I think that's a good thing. But you do get these moments that come out of these cases, which are fascinating. So there was a case where Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow, they had to admit, their teams had to admit, yeah, nobody should take what we say face value. We're first and foremost entertainers. We're not just giving you facts. That's quite an admission, because people tune into MSNBC and people tune into Fox News, and they expect, no, this is news. I'm getting the straight dope. And obviously, if you're more of a Democrat, you feel like you're getting it from MSNBC. More of a Republican, you feel like you're getting it from Fox News. But, that's quite an admission, isn't it? We don't put the facts and the information first. I have no problem with opinion news. It's what I do, right? But you have to put the facts and the information first, and then you react to it. And basically, their argument is, we're more like talk radio. We're not, like, we're not holier than thou, we're not above it. You shouldn't take us seriously. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. If the $1.6 billion, if it actually, like, if they're fined $1.6 billion, that's a lot of fucking money. That's a lot of money. And I don't know what impact that will have on the network. I mean, my gut reaction is to say, it literally doesn't matter what kind of a sledgehammer you swing at these guys, they're gonna get out unscathed. Because it's a colossal media empire. They're number one by a mile in this news category. So it feels like there's no way that they're gonna fucking, like, find a way to really either take down the network or seriously impact the network or even force editorial changes, right? Like, that's probably the thing that we can be most hopeful about, but even being hopeful about that, it's still probably not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But understand that in these lawsuits with Dominion, they've won some of them in the sense that they've gotten, like, Newsmax or One American News to come out there and say, yeah, they're right, we're wrong, etc. And others, they've had other lawsuits, and the lawsuits have gotten through, the first step. So in other words, a judge has said, like, yeah, this is a fair lawsuit. So in other words, there's some grounds to say this is defamatory. And so there might actually be a case for defamation. There might actually be, like, Fox might actually get slapped with some sort of a fine. But honestly, I think the best case scenario we could hope for is that there's some editorial change. But to expect Fox to get just good is impossible. You can imagine them being slightly less shitty, but that probably is the most we could hope for. I mean, it's crazy, right? Because there's zero accountability. There's zero accountability. The news media, not just Fox News, but corporate media across the board, it's like the only institution where you always can fail up. It's an anti-meritocracy if I've ever seen one. All these idiots on CNBC were wrong about everything, including the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession. All of the morons on the other major networks were cheerleaders for the Iraq War, and then they got promoted, and the people who were anti-Iraq War were fired. Jesse Ventura, Phil Donahue. I mean, it's an anti-meritocracy if I've ever seen one. Maybe this will bring some accountability. Maybe this will lead to some minor changes, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much. But that $1.6 billion number, that's a pretty big number. It's a pretty big number. So I guess we'll see what happens. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.